What's up, beer seekers? Crew from BeerSighted here, and we are back with another episode of Industry Insiders, and we have got a good one on tap tonight. We are thrilled to be chatting with Jay Gray, owner of Odd By Nature Brewing out of Cape Neddick, Maine. Jay, how's it going? Thank you so much for taking the time to join us tonight.
Of course. What's up, guys? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, we are super excited to talk with you tonight. We know you guys have had a lot going on lately. You just opened up 12 weeks ago, so it's been about 3 months since you started. So we want to know, how's that process been going for you so far, but also just a little bit of your background and how you got going in the beer industry.
Yeah, of course. So we broke ground in October and literally put up an entire building in a 6-month process and opened June 15th to the public. I never built a building or opened a brewery before, so it was a very expensive learning experience as I went along. And it was cool. We're very, very lucky where it's not just me trying to figure it out. We have so many friends in the industry, and that's kind of how I got started in the industry. Is we opened an outdoor gastro pub called Food for Thought 3 years ago now. And when we opened that up, it was literally in an abandoned parking lot. And we were like, we're going to do Big Mac dumplings and chicken parm ramen and a donut grilled cheese and only serve craft beer in a very vacational area. And everyone was like, they're doing weird food and they only do craft beer. And I don't know, it's outdoors. And now we do 100,000 people in 4 months in a 40-seat restaurant. So we are one of the busiest restaurants in the state of Maine, which is very cool. And by supporting the whole beer industry, we built a lot of great friendships with everyone in Maine and the greater beer scene in New England, from Dino from Vitamin C and JC from Trillium and Kyle from Horus and Mike from Definitive and Matt and Chris from Barreled Souls. And the list goes on and on of people that are just incredible friends that throughout this process to be able to reach out and text them or call them is just so, so incredible. And it really, really helped with the whole process.
It's really quite amazing. And you don't see breweries do as much as you've done and really open in this time. Is that because of all your connections? Do you think that made it a lot easier?
Yeah. I mean, like it never would have happened if we were just a regular brewery. I mean, I took every dollar I had on earth. I cashed in my retirement, my IRA. I had every dollar into the brewery. Everything. Like I didn't have $5 left over when we opened. I was like, well, it better go well week one or no one's getting paid. And everybody looked at me like, oh, he's probably joking. And I'm like, I'm not joking. So it was nuts, John from, Jay Wakefield, the owner, invited us down to Wakefest before we even opened the brewery. And which is just such a huge honor to get invited to it because it's one of the biggest craft beer festivals in the world. But that relationship came from years of building it with John. The year before the pandemic, we wound up doing an event in Pittsburgh with Hop Culture magazine on a Saturday night, and they had us come out and cook for 1,200 people. And then we literally flew to Miami that night, stayed up all night in our Airbnb, prepped all the food in an Airbnb kitchen, and then did an event at Wakefield's that Sunday. And we didn't tell anybody. And when he got word of it, he came over and he was like, were you guys in Pittsburgh yesterday? And we were like, yeah. And he's like, you came all the way out here for this? And I'm like, John, you call me and I'm there. And we built that relationship just by constantly showing up and being those dudes. And he really respected it. And that's why we got the invite before we ever even opened, And
that's the perfect example of hustle and until you make it. That is awesome. That's so much work that you guys have put in already. So the first 12 weeks sounds like it's been going pretty well for you guys.
Yeah, each month we've been open 3 months. We've had over 3,000 people in a month, and we're also only open. The first month we were only open 4 days a week, and now we're open 5 days a week, Thursday through Monday. Which just had to do with how much beer we can actually crank out.
That's awesome. So as far as opening and planning during the pandemic, I mean, did you expect this to only be a 6-month process? Or, I mean, did that just shock you that you were even able to do it that fast?
It had to be done. I mean, we had a budget and I was like, this is all the money I have. So we have to figure this out and make this work. And a lot of times when I talk to all my brewery friends, my friend Eric, who owns Magnify Brewing, he's one of my best buddies in the industry, but he's a real negative fucker. Can I curse on this, by the way?
Yeah, yes, totally can.
Yeah, he's super fucking negative. So he was like, it's never going to happen. And I was like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And we missed it by 2 weeks. We wanted to open Memorial Day weekend. And we wound up opening June 15th. And, you know, it's a testament to, like you said, putting your head down and being like, it has to happen. You know, the costs of a lot of materials went up, and that was just part of the learning process. Like, I didn't realize a chiller that costs 20 grand, that the piping would also cost 20 grand. That doesn't make any sense to me. I figured install would be like 2 grand, but that's not how it was. So we had to figure out a lot of stuff. I had to max out my credit cards and my American Express. And, you know, I was getting a lot of 1-800 calls that first 30 days that I had to just hit decline on, but you know, it's worth it. We're open and everybody's paid now, so they're doing okay. You know,
There you go.
You are a brave soul. That is, that's true. I don't know that all of us have that in us, but
made me a little nervous. You telling that, like, planning all you did, I was like getting nervous over here myself. So kudos to you for doing that.
Yeah, Amex doesn't screw around. If I start seeing a red dot on my head like that Biggie skit, I'd be like, "Uh-oh, red dot."
So as far as everything that you had to build, you know, your brewing system itself, what did you guys actually put in place? What you know, how many barrels is your brew house? Just curious about, you know, what you have in place, but also right off the bat, how have you gone about, you know, the operational side of it, where, you know, you have to determine what beers you're going to have brewed when, you got to get that schedule rolling for your different styles of beers. How have you gotten all that going? And yeah, what size brew house are you working with?
Yeah, so one of the things we wanted to work on, so we're, I think, unique in Maine, where we're a completely self-sustainable brewery. We brew on a well, so we use well water. We're also brewing on septic as well. So we're completely 100% self-sustainable, which is really cool about our process, and we don't affect the environment in any way, shape, or form. So we have a 3.5 barrel brew house, which is electric. We did that because that way we didn't have to sprinkler the building. So that was the best system we could get from SS Brewtech. And all of our fermenters, we have 6 7-barrel fermenters that we double batch into. And then we have 4 1-barrel fermenters that we can then brew on our 3.5 and split off into different variants as well, which is very cool. So we just released a IPA last week called Hear No Evil, See No Evil, and Speak No Evil. And it was a base IPA that we then dry hop differently with each variant. And we're able to like release 3 different IPAs at the same time that had some of the same characteristics, but just different hop notes, which was very cool. And yeah, so we can have, with all of our fermenters, we can have 10 beers going at the same time. The big fermenters are mainly for us canning. And we're just trying to figure it out. You know, we basically, when we have a new beer coming out, we tend to can about, you know, 5 barrels of it and probably put a barrel and a half into the tap room. And that seems to be working for us right now, but it's every day we're learning and we're trying to scramble and figure out another process, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. And so as far as the beers you are putting out there, what's your lineup like? Do you mix in any beers that are odd by nature, not to be lame and make a lame?
No, we so the idea when we opened up, Abe Henderson Brown, who's my head brewer and my partner, who is incredible. He's the head bartender at the Levitt Theater in town, which is a really cool 1920s movie theater that they converted into a cocktail bar. It's really, really cool. And he was the head bartender there. And I knew from day one, I wanted him to be my guy. And I was like, he was my whole list. People have a list. He was it. And he had some brewing experience before, but he had never been a head brewer before. But his drinks were so good, and it keeps being brought up in articles. But I just said, hey, think of it as really big cocktails. You know, that was my convincing line to him, that I was like, it'll be fine. And we knew when we opened, we didn't want to be a brewery that put on 7 IPAs out of 8 tap lines. I was like, every brewery does that. I don't care if it works. I was like, they can go somewhere else and get that. So I think a lot of times what we've been successful with at Food for Thought and with Odd by Nature is going in a different direction than everyone else. If everyone's not doing it, let's do it. Let's go in the opposite direction of what everyone's doing. And even though that might not necessarily capture the masses, it will find a niche crowd that will really be into what we're doing. So we opened up, and I think we had 6 sours, 1 IPA, and a stout on when we opened up. And we plan to be mainly a sour factory, if you will. You know, my friend Theo, who works at Grimm, was saying, hey, Candy Beer Kings. And I think eventually we'll release a beer with like a bunch of candies in it and do that. But we want to just do things that are nostalgic. I think a big thing about being up in Maine, and you know, my upbringing, I grew up in Boston, but being up in Maine, a lot of it was candy and ice cream and just that idea of being a kid. and now we're not kids. So how do we make people feel young again? And I think by putting these candies and a lot of cool things into the beer, we can make people feel kind of a certain way. And I think when you can or bottle nostalgia, you make people feel really special.
That's awesome. I mean, and I've got one of your redheaded stepsons
hell yeah.
Right now. Was up there a couple weekends ago. Shark Attack was just unbelievable. So, those are definitely two examples of exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, that Shark Attack. So the cool thing was we loaded in a bunch of gummy sharks into our base goza with green apple tepache and marshmallow. And then we brought those kegs down to Miami, and we had no idea what those gummy sharks were going to do to those kegs. And we got down to Wakefield, and John's like, "Hey, I'm going to put your beer on tap tonight." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, what's the occasion or anything?" And he goes, "Oh, we're doing a little tap takeover with vitamin C, Equilibrium, Other Half, and Trillium." And I was like, "Uh-oh." I was like, this is probably not going to go well. And he was like, "Oh, it'll be fine. Don't worry about it." So we had no idea. We never tried that beer. We literally stuffed in gummy sharks into that keg, and they put it on tap. And I wasn't even there when they tapped that keg. And literally we showed up, and Pete, who's one of the owners of Equilibrium, Dino, who owns Vitamin C, Michelle, who's one of the managers and lead people over at EQ, they were all drinking our beer. We could tell because it was blue. And like, I was like looking at everyone, and I'm like, "Oh my God, do you know who that is? They're drinking our beer. Oh my God, look who that is." And like, it was such a cool moment because I wasn't going up being like, "Please, can you drink my beer?" Or, "Hey, do you want to try this?" They were just naturally, organically trying our beer. And between, Vitamin C and Trillium and Equilibrium and Other Half, they're probably my favorite breweries, or at least in my top 5 of people I look up to. So it was very cool to see people that inspire me to be enjoying what we do so early on,
You start off with a blue beer, and everyone's immediately going to gravitate towards that because it's something unique. So it kind of makes sense that it spreads word of mouth pretty quickly, I imagine.
Yeah, when we were down at Wakefest, we put gummy sharks in little dime bags like drugs and handed them out to customers when they were getting tastes. And we're doing it this weekend again at Aslan. I wish I had the bag so I could show you. We wrote on the bag, "Definitely not drugs," but we're handing them out down at Aslan, and we're going to be like, here you go. And it's the look on people's faces. They're like, "What is it?" I'm like, "What do you think it is? Just eat it. You'll be fine."
It says it's not drugs.
Yeah, you can trust us.
Yeah, scrolling through your Instagram page too. I'm just looking at it right now. There's all sorts of different colors on here. You go on there, you see like a couple that look like your average beer, and then you see the reds, the greens, the blues. It's kind of fun to look at.
Yeah, we've released 27 beers in the 3 months we've been open, and we have another 4 coming up this next week, which I'm really, really proud of. We're releasing our collab with Definitive, which Definitive are dear, dear friends of ours. And we lost a really good friend of ours, Dylan, who's the head brewer and the founder of Definitive, who was he's such a good dude. He was such a good soul. I'm a lot to deal with, as you guys can tell, listening to me. And he was always so, willing to listen and willing to respect, my opinions. And I love him very dearly. And he's going to be missed very, very much in the beer industry. And we made this beer 3 years ago before we even had a brewery. He reached out, and we made a beer called "I Did It All for the Cookie," because I'm a Limp Bizkit fan, and it was a chocolate chip cookie beer, and we're releasing it again, and it's going to be called "I Did It All for the Cookie," and it has all the cookies on the label, literally like Limp Bizkit, and it's a chocolate chip cookie and raspberry beer with Definitive that I'm real proud of. And we're donating $5 from every 4-pack to Dylan's family to help support them during this tough time. So that's a very special one. We're also releasing Kool-Aid and frozen pizza with Magnify Brewing, which is a blood orange, iced tea, pineapple, and purple Kool-Aid mixed beer that literally the beer is purple. I had it today. It is incredible. It's like better than I could have ever imagined it being. It's really, really good. We're releasing a quince beer called What is a Quince, which is a White Men Can't Jump reference with Brockton Beer Company. And Brockton Beer Company is awesome. They're one of the very few Black-owned craft breweries in New England. And Pierre is a great, great friend of ours. So we wanted to make something special. And it's going to be a quince, pineapple, and prickly pear sour. That's going to be really, really cool and very elegant. And then we're releasing our flagship IPA again, which is What Plants Crave.
Yeah,
So
Brandon and I got the chance to try What Plants Crave, and we have nothing but good things to say about it. It was amazing.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
Yeah, so you just fired off all kinds of collaborations you've done. Is we were like looking through your page, and again, even talking to you now, it just kind of blows me away all the collaborations you have done, and you've done the name dropping, so I don't have to do it. But was that part of your plan going in, or is that kind of just happened organically with the relationships you've had, or is it somewhere in between the two of those?
I think, I want to make beer with people that inspire me and people that I get along with. I really don't care. I don't look up and go, what's their on tap rating before I make beer with them. I couldn't possibly care less about any of that stuff. Me and Pierre met last year around this time, and we were doing pop-ups with food for thought at Widowmaker Brewing in Braintree. And the guys there are great people. And Pierre just started showing up, and he started eating our food with his wife and his kids. And we came out and started talking to him and just built a relationship. And he was someone where, as soon as we got open, I wanted to reach out and, support him and make a beer together. Eric from Magnify, we've been, traveling around the country. We've been at different events for years. And I always wanted to make a beer with him because I just love who he is as a person. Same thing with, Definitive with Dylan and Mike. I mean, they literally helped us fill out our TTV paperwork to get our brewery license, going. And they're 5 minutes down the road. They have no incentive for doing that other than just being nice people. And because this is one of the last beers Dylan had his hand in, I felt like we owed it to him to get this beer out to people and, let them experience, one of the last beers he touched.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think from the get-go, when we started doing this thing, and it continues to amaze us, and your story kind of goes above and beyond anything we've heard, is the willingness to collaborate, the willingness to support, and the family atmosphere that kind of just shows up the second you decide that, hey, I'm going to be a brewer, I'm going to open a brewery. Like, everybody's willing to help, and I don't think that happens literally anywhere else in business. And I mean, everything you just said kind of just blows everybody else away. And we've talked to some pretty cool collaborations and pretty cool relationships.
Yeah, no, the restaurant industry, I think, could learn a lot from the beer industry. I think we've been in the restaurant industry, and, my partner, Brad Andres, who's my chef at Food for Thought, he's been in the restaurant industry forever. And I think part of the tough part is when you open a restaurant, you could open 10 miles away from someone and they're like, fuck that guy. Whereas like you could open literally next to another brewery and they're like, do you need anything? You need some help? Like anything you need?
Yep.
It's just a very, very different attitude that I knew that as we move forward as a company, that's why I wanted to take us in this direction, because I knew it would be better overall for me, Brad, for Abe, for Josh, our general manager. I wanted to really encompass this attitude for all of us because I knew that it would mean, a better attitude and a better life for us,
Yep, definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah, and one thing I think is so cool about Odd by Nature is you are definitely true to your name, especially with the beers you make, but you also do some craft cocktails, which are pretty cool. How do you decide what you're going to brew and make? And right now, do you just really put everything out there for people to try, or are you testing stuff that maybe doesn't even make it to the floor right now?
Yeah, we're releasing everything. There is nothing. We haven't dumped any beers since we've opened. And, some of them, when we go out, they could be a little weird. The Kool-Aid beer, we just made, we didn't know what that was going to turn out. We don't know the right level of Kool-Aid, the right level of, blood orange, but we're trying to, when we do Kool-Aid, when we do, our gummy shark beer, Shark Attack, we're trying not to overwhelm the beer, and we're not trying to just make it a candy beer. We're trying to have some elegance with it. And I think Abe, our assistant brewer, Matt, and Brad and me, we all come from a cooking background. So I think we've learned some interesting things, like our 7-barrel ports on the top, they're very small. So like us putting bags of candy in doesn't work. So we had to get creative. So we have a 1-barrel system that we've been using for, small batches for the tap room, but we've also been using it to render down our candies into a simple syrup and then folding them into the beer, which I think is very cool. It's giving a proprietary flavor to the beer that isn't necessarily what you would get from another brewery, where you're not just getting the sugar. We try to look at what these candies actually taste like and then match the flavor accordingly. So like our blue gummy shark beer, we put marshmallow in it and green apple because that's essentially what the candy is. It's the same thing with our Kool-Aid beer. You're going to get purple Kool-Aid on the head. It smells like that, but you're also getting iced tea. You're also getting blood orange. You're getting a little bit of pineapple. It's a little bit more elegant way to make candy beer, I think.
It's pretty cool. And it's delicious too. We tried Shark Attack. We had a couple other sours as well. And then the ladies we were with were very into the cocktails too. So a wide variety for everyone, which is great.
Yeah, we don't want to just, if with our cocktails, I thought we used some creative stuff. We used hop tea in one. We used spent grain in another. We want to use the essence of craft beer and kind of just, show it off in a different way. We're very lucky where we have a cocktail menu and we have a full liquor license, because if people come in or, they get dragged along, if you will, to a craft brewery with their significant other, I don't want to be like, you can't have this, you can't have that. We want to open a place that's for everyone. If you come in with your kids, we have a kids menu, we have juice boxes, great. If you come in and you want wine, I have a really cool wine list that we curated with Vacation Land of 5 really cool natural wines from the state of Maine. You want a rum and Coke? Here's your rum and Coke. You're drunk. I don't care. It's fine.
Yeah.
So you've clearly already found a
way
niche.
to put it.
Yeah, exactly. You guys have clearly found your groove early on. Do you guys have a vision for maybe what the long-term plan would be?
We're not going to get much bigger. We have room for 2 more 7-barrel fermenters and a 3.5, and that's it. And that's all I ever want to be. I want to sell all the beer out of the tap room. I know everybody's always like, oh, I'm not going to expand. Oh, I'm not going to get bigger. We are not. We'll never, ever, mark my words. I said it on your podcast now on BeerSighted. We will never, ever get bigger. We want to keep it all in-house. I think at a certain point, your life only changes so much when you make a little bit more money. And I would like to really think about where we want to go as a company. We donate 5% of our money to battle opioid addiction issues through Project Grace in Maine. It's a really great charity that's headed up by the Scarborough Police Department and their police chief, and 100% volunteer charity. All the money goes directly where it should to help addicts with subsidizing methadone, giving them rides to and from, their treatment. And it's something we're very passionate about. And I think we should speak louder than just the beer that's going into our tanks. I think we should try to think of what we can do with what we're creating to affect real change in people's lives. Not just putting up a social media post about it, like actually doing real work in the trenches to try to help people. And I want to, as we grow and as we make more money, I want that money to go to the staff. I want that money to go to the guy who creates our labels, James, who's super talented. Like, I'm going to pay him more money as soon as I can. And I think he believes me because he knows that I will. He's so talented that I think that little bit more money isn't going to change my life. I'm very happy. Me and my girlfriend are very happy. We're in a beautiful home. Like, life is good for us, but I think I want to continue to make my employees and the people who believe in us, their lives better.
I love what you guys do. You do a lot of good. I think that's fantastic.
Really.
It's a unique approach. I mean, it's unlike we've talked to, I don't know, 20, 30 breweries. I don't know exactly how many at this point on our podcast. And this is unlike anything we've heard from other breweries. And I mean, plenty of breweries are doing good, but that's just awesome to me.
I appreciate it. I did a lot of sinning when I was younger. I was a big asshole, so I got a lot to make up for.
There you go.
Don't think I'm the nicest guy ever.
The range of what you do is impressive. Like, you just, like, we talked, like, the collaboration, then you do the charity work and the stuff you're doing. You said for Dylan's family. I think it's just the range of what you do is very impressive to do it all and B, stay on top of it. So
yeah, it's just, it's a passion of mine. I think, like, a lot of times people nowadays are pretty sharp, and I think they can smell bullshit a mile away. I mean, look at the news and people just tune out after a while. They're just like, I'm not interested in that anymore. And I think through our food, through our, beers, through everything else that we plan in the future, I want people to really feel what we're doing, and I want it to affect them in a positive way,
That's awesome.
love it.
So we have one final question before we let you go, and this is always a challenging one for people. So, of all the beers you've released at Odd By Nature, sounds like you've created many beers, and there's a lot more to come. But of all the ones you've released so far at Odd By Nature, what is your personal favorite?
I don't know. I guess in terms of flavor. Or what I really enjoy drinking. I mean, I'm a lager guy. I like something that's nice and simple. Our beer, The Sun Sucks, I think is a really beautiful lager. It's really easy and simple. My head brewer, Abe, it's so funny. I was like, I want to put Beavis and Butthead on the cover and call it The Sun Sucks. And he's like, Jay, nobody gives a shit about Beavis and Butthead. And I was like, they do, trust me. And we put Beavis and Butthead on the label, and we were getting calls from like Milwaukee, from like radio stations, and people were like, oh, and I'm like, please stop promoting it. We're going to get sued by Mike Judge. I was like, because we have no right to put this on the beer whatsoever. But that's probably the best one that I think we've released. I think the most special is I Did It All for the Cookie.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have a photo with Dylan from 3 years ago, before we even opened Food for Thought, and he reached out and, you know, was willing to make beer with us before we were even a restaurant, never mind a brewery. And it's a great photo. It's of me, of Brad, my partner, of Dylan, and of Will Ryan, who now is one of the head brewers at Blaze Brewing. And we have these really big cookies we made that we're holding up over our faces. And it's going to be a very cool picture to put back up in a couple days and just, you know, just kind of have that message together where it's not lost on me what he's done for us. And this is the least I could do for him. So I know it's going to taste really good. And I know it'll be a really special beer that I'm sure he'll be smiling wherever he is right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing.
That's great.
Well, Jay, listen, Nick and I can attest because we've been there before. I've been several times to go up and visit you guys. You guys are doing an awesome job. It's a fantastic operation. We love everything you're doing, and everyone should absolutely stop in, check it out. You guys are right off Route 1 up in Maine, so it's super easy to get to. So, you know, we can't encourage everyone enough to go visit you guys. Before we get you out of here, where can people find information from you? And, you know, just give out your social and contact info.
Yeah, of course. On Instagram, it's Odd By Nature Brewing. Same thing for Facebook, Odd By Nature Brewing. And the website is www.oddbynaturebrewing.com. You can find everything about our beer list, about everything that we have up and coming and all of our events right there. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time and, you know, doing the interview. I really am happy you came in and you kind of, you know, made it a point to kind of like corner me and talk to me and everything like that. And I appreciate that. You know what I mean? Like I said, me and you had a good vibe from when we met, and I do dope shit with people that I really get along with. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day and having me on. It means a lot.
Absolutely.
Well, we can't thank you enough for joining. And, you know, I can attest too. So when I went up there the first time, I was driving through, I was on my way back from Portland, driving back down to Massachusetts, and I stopped in. I made it a point to go in during a hurricane, and I wanted to stop in and get some to-go beers. And that's when I met you. And that was a lot of fun, but more than anything else, to attest to the success you guys have had, that place was packed during a hurricane. So that was super cool to see. I was very, very happy to see that. You know, definitely proud of you guys for starting up and killing it so far. So keep going. We'll be back up to visit. For our stuff, check out BeerSighted.com. Visit our YouTube page, BeerSighted Media. You can find us on social media as well at BeerSighted Pod. Again, Jay, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Cheers.
Of course. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay.
Of course. Thanks, guys.